They thought she was just a farmer's daughter, an easy target. What they didn't know? She was a trained Green Beret sniper, and this would be the biggest mistake of their lives. In a small rural town, a group of outlaws set their sights on a quiet family farm. Their plan? Intimidation, theft, and chaos. What they didn't expect was that the farmer's daughter, Maya, was more than capable of handling herself. This is the story of how one woman turned the tables in the most epic way. Maya had recently returned to her family farm after years of serving in the military. A Green Beret sniper with countless missions under her belt, she had traded combat zones for the peaceful life of tending crops and caring for animals. Her father, Henry, had owned the farm for decades, but lately trouble had been brewing. A local group of outlaws had been targeting small farms, stealing livestock, burning crops, and spreading fear among the townspeople. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya noticed unfamiliar tire tracks leading up to their barn. Suspicious, she grabbed her father's old shotgun and quietly approached the building. Inside, she found several men, armed and laughing as they loaded her family's supplies into their truck. One of them spotted her and smirked. "Well, what do we have here?" The farmer's little girl. Maya didn't flinch. Her eyes were steady, and her voice, calm yet sharp as a blade, cut through the tension. "You've got 5 seconds to leave before this gets messy," she warned, her tone leaving no room for doubt. The men burst into laughter, their confidence bolstered by their numbers. One of them, the apparent leader, sneered at her. "What are you going to do, sweetheart? Call the cops?" His voice dripped with mockery, and the others chuckled in agreement, clearly underestimating her. But Maya wasn't rattled. She didn't even blink. The way she stood, solid and unshaken, made it clear she wasn't bluffing. "I don't need backup," she muttered under her breath, just loud enough for them to hear. The laughter died down slightly, a flicker of doubt passing between the men. Maya's calm wasn't the kind of calm you see in someone who's scared or trying to buy time. It was the kind of calm that comes from someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And in that moment, the men had no idea just how bad a mistake they'd made by underestimating her. As the men advanced, Maya's military training kicked in. She quickly assessed the situation. 6 men, armed but disorganized. They underestimated her, and that was their first mistake. Using the element of surprise, Maya fired a warning shot into the air. The sudden sound echoed through the barn, startling the men. "Last chance," she said, her voice steady. Instead of backing down, the leader of the group sneered. "You've got guts, I'll give you that, but you're outnumbered." Maya smirked, her confidence unwavering. "Outnumbered doesn't mean outmatched," she said, her voice calm but full of certainty. She didn't wait for them to react. With sharp focus and precise movements, she melted into the shadows of the barn, becoming nearly invisible. The soft creak of the wooden floor and the rustle of hay were the only sounds as she moved. One of the men, trying to follow her, hesitated for just a second too long. That's all Maya needed. She appeared behind him, quick as a flash, and knocked the weapon from his grip. It clattered loudly across the floor, spinning out of reach. He turned, startled, but she was already gone, slipping back into the darkness. Another man, frustrated and panicked, lunged forward, his eyes darting around the dimly lit barn. He didn't see the hay bale Maya had purposely dragged into his path earlier. His boot caught the edge, and he stumbled forward, arms flailing before landing hard on his face with a loud grunt. The sound of his fall made the others freeze for a moment, uncertainty spreading among them. Maya didn't stop there. She moved like a shadow, knowing exactly where to step and how to stay out of sight. Her knowledge of the barn gave her an edge they couldn't match. By the time the commotion settled, the air was thick with dust kicked up by their clumsy movements. Maya stepped out from the shadows, standing tall and steady in the middle of the chaos. Her weapon was raised, her grip firm and her eyes locked on the remaining outlaws. "Now," she said, her voice calm but carrying an authority that couldn't be ignored. "You're going to put everything back where it belongs. You're going to apologize to my father. And you're never coming back here again." The outlaws exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado fading. They could see it in her eyes. She wasn't bluffing. One by one, they lowered their weapons, defeat written all over their faces. Maya stood her ground, unmoving, until they did exactly as she demanded. The leader of the group, his face red with anger and humiliation, decided he'd had enough. With a roar, he charged at Maya, his large frame moving fast, but not fast enough. Maya didn't flinch. She waited until the very last second, then sidestepped his wild attack with ease. Before he could regain his balance, she moved with precision, hooking his arm and sweeping his legs out from under him in one fluid motion. In an instant, he was on the ground, pinned beneath her. He thrashed and struggled, but her grip was solid. The fight had drained from his eyes as he looked up at her, his frustration now mixed with a hint of fear. "Who are you?" he spat, his voice rough and defiant, but weaker now. Maya leaned in closer, her voice calm and steady. "I'm someone you don't mess with," she said, her words cutting through the tension like a blade. The other men stood frozen for a moment, their confidence crumbling as they watched their leader subdued so easily. Slowly, the reality of the situation sunk in. One by one, they dropped their weapons, the clatter echoing through the barn. Hands went up in surrender, their faces pale and defeated. They knew they were completely outmatched, and the last thing they wanted was to end up like their leader. Maya called the local sheriff, who arrived to arrest the group. The sheriff, a longtime friend of her father's, shook his head as he cuffed the men. "I warned you not to mess with this family," he said. Word of the incident spread quickly through the town. Maya's actions became the talk of the community, with neighbors stopping by to thank her for standing up to the outlaws. But for Maya, it wasn't about being a hero. "I just did what had to be done," she told her father. The outlaws were sentenced to prison, and the local crime wave came to an abrupt end. Maya's bravery inspired others in the community to stand up for themselves and support one another. The incident also led to new initiatives for better security and law enforcement in the area, ensuring that small farms wouldn't be easy targets in the future. Maya's story is a testament to the power of preparation and resilience. It reminds us that courage isn't about seeking conflict. It's about being ready to face it when it comes your way. Her actions show that even in the quietest corners of the world, there are people with extraordinary strength and skills, ready to protect what matters most. Have you ever been falsely accused or felt like no one believed you? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you overcame it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and challenge the way we see the world. Subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience and unity.